Hello from the Crystal Coast. This is Pastor Kevin, encouraging you to run with endurance the race that God has set before you. It's Tuesday, May the 27th. One of the great joys of shepherding the flock of God among us that God has placed me in the midst of for many years now is actually seeing God's people step up and respond to God's promptings, God's call in their lives. There's just something about seeing His sheep respond to Him and follow Him. This must have been the case for King David when he saw God's people respond to the need to give to the building of the temple of God's temple in Jerusalem. 1 Chronicles chapter 29, it records how the leaders of the fathers' houses made their free will offerings, as did also the leaders of the tribes, the commanders of thousands and of hundreds, and the officers over the king's work. And then it records how much they gave, how much gold and silver and bronze and iron, and it was a bunch. And then whoever had precious stones gave them to the treasury of the house of the Lord in the care of Jehiel, the Gershonite. And then it says, then the people rejoiced greatly because they had given willingly, for with a whole heart they had offered freely to the Lord. And David, the king, also rejoiced greatly. So I had a couple of thoughts when I read that, especially after what happened this past Sunday. The first one is this, that when you step up to respond to God's promptings in your life, you put yourself in a position to experience real joy. That's what happened. That's what happened with God's people in David's day. The second thought I had is that when you step up to respond to God's promptings in your life, you put yourself in a position to serve Him completely and to serve Him freely, willingly. And again, this is what God's people experienced in David's days. And then a final thought I had when I read this passage was, when you step up to respond to God's promptings in your life, you make it possible for the spiritual leaders that God has placed in your life to be able to join you in rejoicing greatly, experiencing joy. And that's exactly what happened this past Sunday in our worship gatherings. We wrapped up our time together. This brief letter the Apostle Paul wrote to a young man named Titus. And our big takeaway was, if we're going to be a big-hearted church for a broken-hearted world, we're going to need to engage in good deeds to meet pressing needs. And to that end, I had one of these red cards that I showed our church family. These red cards are like the different cards that we have. We have a display right outside of our worship center, and over the top of it, it says "Serve like Jesus." And then there are all kinds of cards like this, different colored cards. There are these red ones, and then there are green and blue and purple, I think, and maybe even yellow. I don't remember all the colors now. But these red cards are actually pressing needs. These are short-term opportunities that are kind of like one and done. You know, you pick up one of these and you find out what it is and you do it, and then there are other opportunities that you can get involved in. And I challenge our church family, if we really are a big-hearted church, then all these red cards would be gone Sunday. And when I went by that display Sunday after our worship gatherings, every one of these red cards had been taken. All of them had been taken. And I got to tell you, I was pretty happy about that. I experienced, like David, I rejoiced greatly over that. So thank you for making that possible for me. I really do appreciate that. Now, here's the other thing I know about these red cards. Just because they were all taken this last Sunday, there'll actually be more red cards available this coming Sunday. If you didn't get your chance to pick up one, you'll have that this coming Sunday. Until then, let's go make a difference.